I want you to picture a situation, and I am willing to bet the overwhelming majority of you are intimately familiar with exactly how this feels.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
Right. So imagine you are standing right in the dead center of a completely chaotic room. I mean, it is an absolute disaster area.
Like total chaos.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
Papers are scattered across every flat surface. Objects are haphazardly piled in corners. The walls literally feel like they're closing in on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you are desperately, frantically trying to organize it all. You're running from corner to corner, moving a sack of heavy books over here, straightening a wrinkled rug over there.
Just trying to, like, impose some sort of rigid, predictable order onto this completely overwhelming mess.
Exactly. And the entire time, your chest is tight, your breathing is shallow, and your mind is racing with a terrifying thought that if you stop moving for even a solitary spark of a second, the mess will somehow swallow you whole.
It's a terrifying feeling.
It really is.
Yeah.
Or, if a messy room doesn't immediately resonate with your personal anxieties, imagine instead that you're staring at a meticulously crafted life plan.
Oh, the life plan. Yes.
Right, the one where you've mapped out the passage of eras, every milestone, every career move, every relationship dynamic, the exact sequence of events that will guarantee your safety and happiness.
And then boom.
Boom. Suddenly, without warning, a massive, unpredictable variable enters the equation, and the entire thing goes entirely off the rails.
Which it always does.
Always. And you're caught in this endless tide of expectations, constantly trying to manage an unmanageable world.
Yeah.
The sheer intensity of the anxiety in your chest is suffocating. You are, at your core, completely exhausted.
And, it is a very unique kind of exhaustion.
Yeah.
Because that relentless grinding fatigue, it doesn't come from physical labor. You could sit in a perfectly comfortable chair all day and still feel as though you have run a marathon.
Oh, absolutely. I've had days where I did nothing physical and felt completely drained.
Right, because that exhaustion comes directly from the mental and emotional strain of constantly trying to steer the river of your life.
Steer the river. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, we spend the lion's share of our existence operating under the fundamental assumption that we are the absolute, unquestioned managers of reality.
Like it's our job to control it all.
Exactly. And the human brain is actually wired for this, you know? Evolutionary biology has handed us a nervous system that constantly scans the horizon for threats.
Looking for the next disaster.
Right. And it tries to neutralize those threats by controlling the environment. We inherently believe that if we just grip the steering wheel tight enough, we're safe.
If we just anticipate every possible danger lurking in the shadows.
Yes, if we just manipulate the variables of our day-to-day existence with enough precision, we can guarantee a safe, uninterrupted passage.
But that never actually works out, does it?
No, it doesn't. That's the ultimate paradox of the human experience. The glitch in our operating system, if you will.
The glitch.
The harder you try to forcefully control external outcomes, the more violently the world seems to push back.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The friction between your desire for control and the unpredictable nature of reality generates a profound, continuous state of suffering.
The friction is the key word there, I think. The harder you grip the rope, the faster it slips through your hands.
Leaving you with nothing but severe friction, burns.
Exactly. When we look at the mechanics of human anxiety, it almost always traces back to this exact issue. The sheer intensity of our daily stress stems directly from trying to dictate every solitary spark of existence.
We don't just want to watch the play.
No, we want to write the script, direct the actors, control the lighting, manage the stagehands, and somehow sit in the audience to manage their reactions all at the exact same time.
It is an impossible, completely unachievable task.
Totally. So the mission of our exploration today is to fundamentally upend this approach. We're going to talk about a radical shift in perspective.
A very radical shift.
We are talking about moving from the weary, battered manager of existence to the serene, powerful observer. We want to figure out how to step out of that chaotic, suffocating room.
Which, I should note, is a monumental tectonic shift in how we process reality.
It's not easy.
Not at all. It requires completely unspooling a conditioning that has been ingrained in us since the dawn of our cognitive awareness.
Since we were kids.
Right. From the very earliest days of childhood, we are taught that our value comes directly from our intervention, from our dominance over our environment.
Like you get praised for building the tallest block tower.
Exactly. We are praised when we mold the clay, when we build the tower, when we force the puzzle pieces together.
So doing nothing feels wrong.
It feels completely wrong to suggest that true power, true alignment, and genuine effectiveness actually come from stepping back and observing feels completely counterintuitive.
To the anxious, problem-solving mind, stepping back feels dangerous.
It feels irresponsible. But when we analyze the psychology of peace, we find that shifting into the observer role is the only reliable pathway to a genuine, unshakable serenity.
Okay, to really wrap our minds around how this mechanism works, let's start with a mental transition.
Let's do it.
I want you to mentally step out of that chaotic room we just imagined. Drop the shattered, useless life plan.
Leave it on the floor.
Leave it. Instead, imagine you are walking into a vast, sunlit park. The air is clear, the temperature is perfect. You walk over to the edge of a bustling playground, and you take a seat on a quiet, sturdy wooden bench.
Oh, that sounds nice.
You are just sitting there. You are shifting the narrative of your life from this active, desperate, white-knuckled struggle to a posture of peaceful observation.
You're breathing in the air.
Breathing the air, feeling the solid wood beneath you, and just watching. You are not responsible for anything in that playground.
And that bench is the perfect conceptual starting point.
Yeah.
Yes, because it introduces the foundational architecture of our entire discussion today. The concept of the observing consciousness.
The observing consciousness.
Right. The universe, in all its sprawling, infinite complexity, exists as an experience largely because there is an observer there to witness it.
So without us watching.
Without the witness, the grand architecture of reality lacks a focal point. Life itself is this vast, boundless playground of shifting experiences, changing seasons, and dynamic interactions.
And peace comes from just watching that.
True peace, the kind of peace that is not constantly threatened by passing storms or temporary setbacks, begins the exact moment we stop trying to actively manage the chaotic center of the sandbox.
And take our place on the bench.
Exactly. Take our rightful place in the role of the observing consciousness.
Let's unpack the mechanics of this playground metaphor because I think it illustrates the psychology so vividly.
It really does.
When you are sitting on that park bench watching children play, what are you actually witnessing? You are seeing an endless tide of microdramas.
Oh, absolutely. The sandbox is full of drama.
Right. You see them laugh uproariously at a joke that makes no sense. You see them run with wild, reckless abandon toward the swings. You see them trip over their own feet and faceplant in the wood chips.
And you see them cry bitterly when they scrape a knee or someone takes their favorite toy.
But as the observer on the bench, how do you react? You do not rush into the sandbox to intervene in every minor scrape.
Right. You don't jump up, blow a whistle, and try to dictate the arbitrary, nonsensical rules of their imaginative games.
You don't pull out a spreadsheet and try to optimize their playtime for maximum cardiovascular efficiency.
No, you simply watch the unfolding reality with a deep, steady warmth and acceptance.
Because you know inherently that the falling down is just as integral to the game as the running. The scraped knee is part of the curriculum of the playground.
You recognize that the entire spectrum of their experience is perfectly natural.
You're not agitated by it.
Right. You are not agitated by their momentary sorrows because your perspective is elevated above the immediate emotional spike. You understand the temporary nature of their distress.
You know, the kid crying over the stolen plastic shovel will be laughing on the slide in just a passing moment.
Exactly. But here is the critical analysis we have to apply to our own daily lives.
Okay.
Why do we completely lose this peaceful, elevated observer status when it comes to our own existence?
Oh, that's a great question. Why can we sit on the bench for others, but not for ourselves?
We lose it because we forget our broader awareness. We mentally step off the bench, we walk directly into the center of the playground, and we suddenly identify entirely, without reservation, with the character playing the game.
We become the kid in the sandbox.
Yes. We take our vast, infinite capacity for consciousness and shrink it down until it fits tightly inside the restrictive, fearful suit of our immediate ego.
We literally become the kid who thinks the stolen plastic shovel is the ultimate catastrophic tragedy of the cosmos. Our entire universe shrinks to the size of that missing toy.
And that is the exact mechanism of suffering.
Shrinking our awareness.
Right. We get entirely lost in the intensity of the immediate drama. We forget the vast constellation of moments, the countless varied experiences that make up the entire passage of our lives.
So true. Like, a bad commute ruins our whole reality.
Exactly. When you are completely identified as the character in the game, a sudden downpour of rain is a disaster that ruins your entire day, and you rail against the sky.
But from the bench.
When you maintain the perspective of the observer, the downpour is just a fascinating shift in the weather pattern of
Just
existence.
now.
The suffering arises when the observing consciousness falls asleep at the wheel and the fragile, fearful character takes the reins, operating under the terrifying delusion that its survival depends on controlling every single grain of sand in that playground.
Okay, I am struggling with this a bit, and I want to voice the immediate pushback that naturally flares up when we talk about this.
Please do. That's important.
If I just observe my life, doesn't that just mean I am giving up?
Ah, the apathy argument.
Yeah, I mean, if I am sitting on the bench watching my career, my relationships, and my finances play out like kids in a sandbox, how do I actually achieve anything? This sounds dangerously close to apathy.
I hear that a lot.
It sounds like a philosophical excuse for becoming entirely passive, just letting the world happen to me while I sit there detached, unbothered, and ultimately irresponsible.
That is the crucial hurdle in understanding this framework. It is the most common misconception, and it is vital we dismantle it right now.
Okay, dismantle it for me.
The state of the observing consciousness is emphatically not apathy.
It's not.
Not at all. Apathy is a psychological defense mechanism. It is a deadening of feeling. It is a thick, concrete wall built to keep the world out because the world is perceived as too painful, too overwhelming, or too disappointing.
So apathy is actually born from fear.
Exactly. Apathy is a symptom of a deeply wounded ego. Observation, on the other hand, is the absolute highest form of active engagement.
Wait, observation is active engagement.
Yes, but it is engagement completely stripped of the crushing burden of ultimate control.
I need to highlight that distinction because I think it is the linchpin of this whole idea. Engagement without the crushing burden of ultimate control.
It changes the entire chemistry of how you interact with reality.
How so?
When you shift into the observer, you still play the game. You still act. You still build companies. You still create art. You still love your family passionately. You still participate in the vibrant, complex dance of human existence.
But without the stress.
But you drop the heavy, suffocating illusion that you must forcefully dominate the outcome of every interaction. You begin to act from a place of pure inspiration and natural capability rather than a place of desperate calculation and fear.
So back to the bench.
Think back to the bench. When you are sitting there, you are not ignoring the children. You are completely present with them. In fact, you are more present than if you were running around anxious. If a child wanders toward a busy street and is in genuine life-threatening danger, the observer does not just passively watch.
Of course not. You jump up.
The observer acts swiftly, decisively, and effectively. But the observer does not act out of panicked reactivity over every minor, insignificant fluctuation in the game.
You aren't sprinting over because someone dropped a cracker.
Exactly. You are deeply engaged, you are fully alive, but you are completely untethered from the frantic need to force the universe to comply with a rigid set of demands.
You know, it makes me think of playing a sport with your friends on a weekend.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
You are out on the field, giving it your absolute all. You are sweating, your lungs are burning, you are running as fast as you can, and you are fully immersed in the joy and the challenge of the movement.
Right.
But you have completely detached from the final score.
Right.
If your team loses, you do not question your fundamental worth as a human being.
Exactly. The playing itself is the victory.
You still play, but you play without the paralyzing fear of losing.
And playing without fear completely alters the energetic signature, the actual effectiveness of your actions.
It really does. You play better.
Consider the physiology of it. When you act from fear, from a desperate need to control an outcome, your nervous system is in fight or flight mode.
Tensed up.
Your muscles are tense, your peripheral vision narrows, your breathing is shallow, your actions become restricted, forced, and they often create secondary problems because you are blind to the larger context.
But when you're the observer,
When you act from the clarity of the observer, your nervous system is regulated. Your actions are fluid, intuitive, and remarkably effective because you have access to your full cognitive capacity.
that makes so much sense.
But, to truly understand how to play this game without fear, to remain anchored on that bench while simultaneously dancing in the sandbox of daily life, we have to deeply understand the nature of the playground itself.
We have to look at the fabric of reality.
We have to look at the fabric of the reality we're interacting with.
Which brings us to a concept that completely flips our understanding of cause and effect. We are moving from the park bench to an idea that is incredibly empowering, but also deeply uncomfortable if you really let it sink in.
It can be very confronting.
We need to examine the two mirrors of reality.
Yes. The concept of the two mirrors is the fundamental mechanism through which the observer actually experiences and decodes existence.
Okay, break this down for us.
We can break this down by looking at how human perception functions through two entirely distinct reflective surfaces. The first is the physical mirror.
Right. This is the simple, literal one.
The one in your bathroom.
The mirror hanging above your bathroom sink. You wake up, you stand in front of it, and it shows your physical, material form. It reflects the superficial layer of reality.
The clothes you chose to put on.
Yeah, the tired lines around your eyes from a lack of sleep, the physical state of your avatar in the material world is immediate, objective, and entirely literal.
Yes, the physical mirror is simple optics, but the second mirror is where the profound psychological and philosophical truth of our existence lies.
The second mirror.
It is the mirror of meaning, and this mirror is life itself.
Life itself is a mirror.
The entire external world, every single situation you encounter, every physical space you inhabit, every challenge that arises is a vast, continuous, incredibly sensitive, reflective surface.
But it's not reflecting my face.
No, this mirror does not reflect your physical body. It reflects your internal thoughts, your deeply held subconscious beliefs, your unhealed traumas, your secret joys, your hidden judgments, and your unspoken fears.
Wow.
It reflects your internal state back at you with flawless, uncompromising accuracy.
So wait, I want to make sure we are not just speaking in poetic abstractions here.
We aren't. It's very literal in a psychological sense.
Are you saying that every single interaction is a direct reflection of my psychology?
Yes.
Like the guy who aggressively cut me off in traffic this morning.
Yeah.
The coworker who constantly undermines my ideas in meetings. The sudden, unexpected moment of grace from a stranger in line at the coffee shop.
All of it.
These aren't just random, chaotic events bouncing around in an indifferent universe.
When we examine the deep psychology of human perception, they are the absolute opposite of random.
Okay, my mind is slightly blown right now.
Every interaction, every deeply frustrating person who crosses your path, every overwhelmingly joyful encounter is a solitary spark reflecting a specific internal state.
So the external world is?
The external world is not a collection of arbitrary events that you are a passive victim of. It is a continuous, living, breathing dialogue with your own essence.
A dialogue.
The universe is constantly communicating with you, revealing your own mind to you, but it uses the people, the delays, the conflicts, and the events around you as its vocabulary.
Let's really extrapolate on this, because the implications for how we live our lives are staggering.
They change everything.
If you truly deeply internalize the concept of the mirror of meaning, the entire framework of having external enemies completely dissolves.
It has to.
The concept just vanishes.
It has to vanish because the foundation of an external enemy relies entirely on the illusion of separation.
The idea that it's me versus them.
Exactly. It relies on the deeply held belief that there is a defined, isolated you and a disconnected, inherently hostile them that is out to get you.
Right.
But the mirror principle reveals that the psychological universe is entirely seamlessly unified.
So the people we fight with.
The people you clash with most violently, the individuals who effortlessly trigger your deepest rage, your profound insecurity, or your intense jealousy, are simply wearing the masks of your own unspoken anxieties.
They're reflecting us.
They are serving a vital function. They are showing you the exact parts of your own internal landscape that you have adamantly refused to look at.
Oh, man. I want to build a really concrete analogy here to anchor this because it is a lot to process.
Please do.
Imagine your daily life is an incredibly elaborate, immersive theater production.
Okay, like this.
You're the lead actor, and you are walking through these beautifully constructed sets. Your office, your home, your neighborhood. You interact with a massive cast of characters. Heroes who help you, villains who thwart you, passing strangers who ignore you.
The whole cast.
But here is the secret twist of this play. Every single actor on that stage has been secretly handed a script that was written entirely by your own subconscious mind.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize the mechanics of projection.
Think about the implications of that. The person yelling at you on stage, the one making unreasonable demands?
Your subconscious wrote their dialogue.
Exactly, specifically to highlight a boundary you lack the courage to set.
Yes.
The person who unexpectedly offers you an overwhelming magnitude of love and support. Your subconscious wrote their arrival to show you your own hidden capacity for worthiness.
Every actor hitting their mark.
Every single actor is just delivering the lines you secretly authored in the dark room of your psyche. They're hitting their marks exactly as your internal frequency directed them to.
So getting mad at them is pointless.
Completely. When you get furious at the actor playing the villain, when you scream at them for ruining the scene, it is entirely irrational. They're just reading your script.
It is profoundly irrational, yet it is the primary engine of human suffering.
We do it all day long.
We spend an enormous magnitude of our vital energy trying to change the reflection in the mirror by yelling at the glass.
Yelling at the glass.
We try to manipulate the actors, we try to fire the supporting cast, we try to constantly rearrange the set pieces.
If I just get a new job.
Right. We operate under this pervasive delusion. If I just change my job and get away from this toxic boss, if I just find a new romantic partner who actually understands me, if I just move to a new city with a better culture, the play will finally be a comedy instead of a tragedy.
But it doesn't work.
But the tragedy is born from the writer, not the set. Wherever you go, you take the playwright with you.
You take yourself.
You take your unhealed internal state with you, and the new actors in the new city will simply pick up the exact same subconscious script and begin delivering the exact same painful lines.
It is the ultimate, inescapable loop. It
Amen.
repeats until you finally realize you are the one holding the pen.
Until you wake up to the reflection.
If the external world is just a mirror of our internal state, then our desperate, frantic attempts to meticulously plan and control the external world are fundamentally misguided.
Completely misguided.
We are trying to fix the blurry projection on the movie screen by wiping the screen with a cloth instead of turning around and looking at the smudged film running through the projector.
Precisely. And this realization exposes the great trap of the human intellect, the illusion of the mind's architecture.
The illusion of the mind's architecture. What does that mean?
Because we misidentify the source of our reality, believing wholeheartedly that our stress comes from the outside rather than reflecting the inside, we rely heavily on the analytical mind to build incredibly rigid structures to keep us safe from the external world.
We plan. We plan relentlessly.
Oh, the plan.
We build long-term career plans, massive financial roadmaps, contingency protocols for every possible physical or social disaster.
Trying to create certainty.
We try to construct an impenetrable fortress of certainty around ourselves.
But rigid planning is entirely a construct of the analytical mind, and the analytical mind is inherently, fundamentally limited by its own nature.
Limited how?
Well, the analytical mind is a fantastic, necessary tool for solving immediate logistical problems, like figuring out how to build a bridge or balance a budget.
Sure, practical stuff.
But it is spectacularly unequipped to navigate the endless, infinite, dynamic tide of existence.
Why is that?
Because the mind can only build its architectures based on the passage of eras past.
It only knows what's already happened.
Exactly. It can only reference what it has already seen, what it has already survived, or the specific dangers it has been culturally conditioned to fear. It cannot truly fathom the infinite, unmapped possibilities of the future.
Wow.
It is essentially driving a car by only looking in the rearview mirror.
It makes me think of trying to navigate a vast, newly discovered ocean using a map of a tiny, landlocked lake you grew up next to.
That is a perfect image.
The analytical mind says, well, back at the lake, there was a sharp rock on the left side, so to survive this ocean, I must perpetually steer right forever just to be absolutely safe.
Right.
It takes past trauma, or even past success, and projects it forward as an absolute, unbreakable law of physics.
And that projection creates immense friction. The complete futility of overplanning becomes painfully obvious when you realize you are trying to control an infinite, dynamic, ever-flowing universe with a finite, fear-based mind.
It's like trying to catch the wind in a net.
Yes. When you try to dictate the endless tide of existence using the rigid, brittle structures of anxiety, you generate incredible pressure. The universe inherently wants to flow, it wants to expand, and you are building concrete dams based on outdated blueprints from your childhood.
And eventually.
Eventually, the pressure builds, the water rises, and the dam cracks.
So what's the alternative?
True alignment, genuine harmony with existence, requires shifting your entire operational basis. It means acting from a place of pure, Unfiltered inspiration and present moment awareness rather than acting from a place of calculated risk and historical fear.
But how does this actually work in practice? If we speculate on this for a second, what actually happens when we completely drop the need to calculate every single outcome?
It's a profound shift.
Like when we stop running those endless, exhausting spreadsheets of pros and cons in our heads for every single decision we make.
When you drop the relentless calculation, you do not become stupid or reckless.
That's the fear, right?
That's always the fear. But instead, you tap into something much older, much faster, and infinitely wiser than the analytical mind.
What's that?
You tap into an organic intelligence. You begin to notice that impulses arise naturally within you. Things you simply feel drawn to do, words you feel compelled to say in a meeting, directions you feel an undeniable pull toward, entirely without a logical step-by-step justification.
Just a quiet, absolute certainty that you need to go left instead of right, even though the map says right, is the mathematically safer bet.
Yes. And what is fascinating when you study the lives of highly aligned, deeply peaceful people is that these organic impulses, these movements born of pure inspiration rather than calculated defense, are almost always the exact movements required by the broader harmony of life.
The mind couldn't see it, but the body knew.
Your analytical mind couldn't possibly see the grand pattern or the hidden variables, but your deeper essence, the observer within you, feels the rhythm and moves in perfect time with it.
I have to pause here because we need to address the practical reality of daily life.
Of course.
The listener might be thinking, this sounds beautiful, but I live in the real world. Do I just drop the steering wheel on the highway of life?
Do I just let go and crash?
Right. Do I stop paying my mortgage or showing up to my corporate job because I didn't feel organically inspired to do so this morning?
Yeah.
We have to bridge the gap between this philosophy and the demands of modern survival.
It is a vital question, because the ego loves to misinterpret the concept of surrender as a license for destructive passivity.
Surrender does not mean giving up.
Shifting to the observer is absolutely not about abandoning action. It is not about ignoring the practical realities of the material plane. You still have to chop wood and carry water.
So what changes?
It is about fundamentally changing the source of your action. You still paddle the boat, you still navigate the currents of your career and your relationships, but you stop trying to force the river to flow backward.
You paddle with the current, utilizing its momentum, rather than fighting against it until your arms give out.
Exactly. When you act from organic intelligence, you still pay the mortgage, but you do it without the agonizing, fear-based internal narrative that you are always one missed payment away from total annihilation.
The story changes, not necessarily the action.
Yes. You take care of your responsibilities, you solve problems at work, you feed your children, but you do so with a lightness, an ease, a profound recognition that you are participating in the flow of life rather than trying to dam it up and control it.
You drop the illusion.
You drop the exhausting illusion that your frantic worry is the engine keeping the world spinning. The world spins entirely on its own. Your worry just makes you dizzy while it happens.
So in the ideal scenario, we voluntarily let go of the rigid mental architectures. We stop trying to control the uncontrollable.
That's the ideal.
But reality is rarely ideal. What happens when we refuse to let go? What happens when our carefully constructed mental architectures, our heavily guarded identities, our massive life plans, our fortresses of certainty are forcibly taken away from us by the unpredictable tide of life?
That brings us to one of the most difficult, emotionally agonizing, yet ultimately most beautiful laws of human existence.
Which is?
The constructive power of destruction.
When the established structures of our lives collapse, and if you live long enough, they absolutely will, whether through a sudden personal loss, a catastrophic career failure, a deep betrayal, or simply a sudden, unexplainable shattering of our known worldview, our immediate biological and emotional reaction is sheer terror.
Complete terror.
We view the collapse as a punishment. We view it as the universe turning against us, a tragic, unfair error in the code of reality that we must fight against with everything we have.
But from the perspective of the observing consciousness, from the elevated viewpoint of the grand architecture of your life, it is never, ever a meaningless punishment.
It's not a punishment.
Never. A collapse is always, universally, a necessary clearing for a higher order. The universe does not destroy simply to cause you pain. It destroys because the existing structure has become too small, too rigid, or too toxic to contain the expanding magnitude of your true essence.
Wow.
You have outgrown the container, and the container must break.
We need a powerful metaphor here to really ground this concept. Because when you are in the middle of a life collapse, It does not feel like an expansion.
No, it feels like the end of the world.
It feels like death. Let's look at the analogy of renovating a home.
Okay.
Imagine you have a deeply neglected room in your house. It has been accumulating junk, broken furniture, and outdated decorations for decades.
Just piled high with debris.
Right. To truly clean it, to transform it into a beautiful, functional sanctuary, you cannot just lightly dust around the edges of the junk.
A little surface cleaning won't do it.
You cannot just spray some air freshener. You have to pull absolutely everything out. And for a brief, terrifying window of time, that room looks like a literal battlefield.
It looks worse than before.
It is chaotic, it is disastrous, there are holes in the wall, the floorboards are ripped up, and it looks infinitely worse than when you started. If someone walked in during that phase, they would think you ruined the house.
But that chaotic battlefield phase is the absolute prerequisite for the brilliant new order that is about to be established.
You have to clear the space.
You cannot install the new solid foundation until the old rotting debris is entirely removed. The destruction of the old arrangement is the literal birth of the new space. Our profound suffering during a life collapse comes almost entirely from our desperate, frantic clinging to the old debris.
Clinging to the trash we just hauled out.
Yes. We are mourning the collapse of a structure that, if we are brutally honest with ourselves, was actually suffocating us.
We mourn the prison because we had grown accustomed to the shape of the bars.
That's a profound way to put it.
The familiarity of the cage felt safer than the uncertainty of freedom.
Exactly. But the psychological law is this. When life forcibly removes something from your graft, the magnitude of the replacement is always greater, provided you do not resist the transition.
Provided you don't fight it.
If you allow the clearing, if you surrender the broken pieces without demanding they be glued back together in the exact same flawed shape, the new growth will inevitably dwarf what was lost.
That's a beautiful promise.
The universe operates on an economy of expansion, not an economy of arbitrary deprivation.
But this concept allowing natural growth and trusting in the necessity of natural destruction, it challenges our most primal, deeply wired survival instincts.
It goes against everything the ego wants.
It is incredibly difficult to apply this surrender to our own lives and our own careers. But it becomes almost impossibly difficult when we try to apply it to the people we love.
Oh, yes. That is the true test.
This brings us to a crucial pivot in our exploration. How this intense need for control infects our relationships, especially our desire to protect those we are responsible for.
Yes, this is where the philosophy meets its hardest test. We must deeply examine what happens when we project our own need for rigid architecture onto others.
What happens?
It leads us to a concept that completely redefines the nature of stewardship and leadership. We can call it the Wildflower Principle.
The Wildflower Principle. I love that name. When you look closely at human relationships, there is an immense, unquantifiable amount of suffering generated by trying to meticulously shape another human life.
An immense amount.
We see this most clearly in the realm of raising the next generation, guiding children, but it applies equally to managing employees, or even trying to fix our romantic partners or friends. We approach human growth with this terrifying clinical intensity.
We do. And if we look at the root of that intensity, it stems from a place of profound arrogance, though it is usually heavily cloaked in the disguise of love and concern.
Arrogance masquerading as love.
Exactly. We fundamentally believe that without our constant anxious intervention, the other person will somehow fail to develop correctly.
We don't trust their process.
We treat human growth as if we are sculpting inanimate clay. We believe we must punch, mold, carve, and force the raw material into a shape that our finite, fear-based mind has deemed successful or safe.
We act like we are manufacturing a product on an industrial assembly line, holding a clipboard and checking for defects at every stage of development.
It's exhausting for everyone involved.
But a human being is not clay.
Yeah.
And they are not a product. Witnessing the growth of a child or the development of anyone you love is not an act of industrial manufacturing. It is the act of witnessing a wildflower.
And that shift in perspective changes everything.
How so?
A wildflower is not a blank slate waiting for you to dictate its form. A wildflower possesses its own intrinsic, perfect, entirely complete blueprint encoded within its very essence.
It already knows what to do.
It already knows precisely how to grow, when to seek the sun, how deep to send its roots to find water, and what exact color its petals are meant to be.
Our hovering just gets in the way.
Our rigid rules, our suffocating expectations, and our constantly hovering, vibrating anxieties do not help the flower grow. They often crush its natural bloom.
Wow.
We literally block its sunlight with our protective shadow.
Let's bring this back to the playground metaphor we started with. It is the parent who refuses to let the kid climb the jungle gym because they might slip.
Right. Don't climb that, you'll fall.
You are protecting them from the temporary pain of a scraped knee, yes. But you are simultaneously robbing them of the profound, necessary triumph of pulling their own body weight to the top, of learning their own physical limits, of developing genuine self-reliance.
You're stealing their growth.
By trying to aggressively eliminate all risk from their environment, we eliminate the very friction required for their intrinsic blueprint to activate and strengthen.
And when you extrapolate that behavior over an entire lifetime, the damage is severe.
So what do we do instead?
By learning to step back, by taking our place on the bench and allowing others to experience their own falls, their own necessary struggles, their own bitter disappointments, and their own soaring triumphs, we accomplish two vital things.
What's the first?
First, we genuinely honor their sovereign journey as an independent consciousness.
And the second?
Second, and equally important for our own mental health, we stop playing an exhausting, godlike role that we were never mentally equipped to play.
We resign from being general manager of the universe.
Yes. We drop the crushing weight of believing we are the sole authors of their destiny. We realize with profound relief that the grand architecture of the universe cares for them just as intricately, just as fiercely as it cares for the sprawling forests and the burning stars.
You are not holding the universe together for them. It is holding them perfectly well on its own.
Exactly.
I want to synthesize this because the psychological relief embedded in this idea is staggering.
It's immense.
It is like stepping down from being the anxious, terrified, constantly vigilant dictator of a tiny, heavily fortified kingdom and suddenly realizing you are just a welcome guest in a magnificent, self-sustaining garden.
A welcomed guest.
Not a dictator.
You are there to marvel, to appreciate, to offer a supportive trellis if a vine reaches out for help, but you are entirely absolved of the terrifying responsibility to force the blossoms open with your bare hands.
And here is the ultimate twist. Allowing this level of freedom to others, truly releasing them to the flow of their own intrinsic blueprint, ultimately grants us the ultimate freedom to turn around and face our own internal landscape.
Yes. The mirror turns back to us.
Because let's be honest, as long as we are frantically trying to control others, we have a perfect, socially acceptable excuse to avoid looking in the mirror of meaning.
We can say, I don't have time to deal with my own anxiety. I have to manage everyone else.
Exactly. But when we drop the external management, we are finally left alone with ourselves, which leads us to our final and perhaps most challenging threshold.
The alchemy of pain.
The alchemy of pain and the ultimate peace.
This is where the theoretical philosophy meets the hard road of actual human experience.
Because it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No, it is not. Because the exact moment you stop controlling, the moment you finally sit quietly on the bench and look into the mirror of meaning, you are going to encounter pain.
The pain you were avoiding by managing everyone else.
Precisely. You are going to encounter all the emotions you are using control to avoid. True serenity, the deep, unshakable peace we have been talking about, is not the artificial, sanitized absence of pain.
It's not just feeling good all the time.
It is not a state of toxic positivity where negative emotions are banished or ignored. True serenity is the radical, unflinching acceptance of the absolute entirety of the human experience.
We spend the overwhelming majority of our lives acting as emotional firefighters.
Stomping out flames.
We sense a spark of anguish, a flicker of grief, or a sudden flare of anxiety in our chest, and we immediately scramble to extinguish it. We apply temporary bandages.
We distract ourselves with screens.
We numb out with substances. We build thicker defensive walls. We project our anger onto external enemies. We do absolutely everything in our power to escape the fire of our own emotions.
Because we fundamentally misunderstand the nature of the emotional fire. We believe the fire of sadness or anxiety is meant to destroy us, to annihilate the core essence of who we are.
But it's not.
No. When you observe it closely, the fire of anguish only burns what is combustible.
Only what is combustible.
And what is actually combustible within you. Only your false identities, only your rigid expectations, only your illusions of control and the heavy masks you wear to appease the external world.
So what's left?
The true observer, the pure consciousness within you, is entirely fireproof.
That is an incredible paradigm-shifting image. The fire only burns what is combustible, and your true self is fireproof.
If you have the profound courage to simply sit in the fire to feel the anxiety, the sadness, or the deep disappointment without immediately rushing to fix it, numb it, or blame someone else for it, a remarkable psychological alchemy occurs.
What happens?
You stop resisting the flame, and without the intense friction of your resistance constantly feeding it oxygen, the fire eventually burns through the dead wood of your illusions and burns itself out.
It extinguishes itself.
Yes. What is left behind is not a destroyed, barren landscape, but an indestructible, crystalline clarity. You realize you survived the very thing you spent your entire life running from.
Let's explore how this actually feels in practice.
Okay.
Imagine letting go of the desperate, exhausting need to be perfectly healed or always positive. We have created this modern psychological pressure cooker where we think if we feel sad, we are somehow failing at life.
We view sadness as a defect.
But what if sadness is just a natural weather pattern in the vast, complex ecosystem of your being? What if a day of heavy emotional rain isn't a sign that your internal climate is broken, but just a necessary...
Rain cloud for not being the sun.
Right, you don't try to control the sky, you just watch it pass from your seat on the bench.
Exactly. You allow the weather to be the weather. You allow the emotion to complete its natural biological and psychological cycle without attaching a frantic, catastrophic story to it.
You just let it rain.
You observe and say, sadness is visiting today, rather than concluding, I am a fundamentally broken person because I am sad. The psychological identification shifts from being the storm to being the vast sky that contains the storm.
Okay, I have to push back here because it is crucial we don't minimize the harsh reality of the human experience.
Please do. It's an important caveat.
It is very easy for us to sit here having this intellectual conversation and say, let the fire burn, or just watch the weather pass when we are talking about a minor frustration, like a bad day at work, a petty argument, or a flat tire.
Right. Everyday stress.
But what about a raging inferno of profound grief? What about the sudden loss of someone you love? A devastating medical diagnosis, the total devastation of a life. You cannot just sit on a wooden bench and casually observe a tsunami.
You are absolutely right to challenge this, because any philosophy of peace that cannot withstand the weight of profound human grief is useless.
It has to hold up under the worst conditions.
We must acknowledge the crushing reality of severe trauma and loss. When the tsunami hits, it knocks you off the bench. It pulls you violently under the water.
There's no observing from a distance then.
The pain is not a gentle flame illuminating your illusions. It is an all-consuming inferno that feels like it is tearing you apart. And in those moments, the practice is not a detached philosophical observation.
What is it then?
The practice is simple, raw survival.
Just breathing through the water.
Yeah.
Taking it one passing moment at a time.
Yes, just
Yeah.
existing. But even here, in the darkest depths of human experience, the underlying principle holds a deep, quiet comfort.
How so?
Because even the heaviest, most suffocating sorrow is a passing era. When you are drowning in grief, it feels utterly permanent.
It feels like it will never end.
The analytical mind, referencing only the immediate, agonizing present, projects that pain forward into infinity and says, I will feel exactly this broken, exactly this devastated forever.
But it's a projection.
Yes. But the grief, no matter how immense, is still just a deeply intense wave in an endless ocean of consciousness. It may be a massive rogue wave that alters the entire coastline of your life forever, changing the landscape of who you are. But the wave itself must eventually break, recede, and return to the vastness.
The wave have to pass.
And surviving that inferno, coming out the other side scarred, changed, but still breathing, provides the ultimate, undeniable proof of the unbreakable nature of the observer within you.
You survive the impossible.
You discover through the ultimate trial that you are larger than the greatest pain the universe could throw at you.
You realize that the structure collapsed, the fire burned everything down to the studs, the wave washed away the foundation.
Yeah.
And yet, you are still here.
You are still here.
The core consciousness that witnessed the destruction remains untouched.
Untouched, clarified, and immensely powerful. And that realization, that deep experiential knowing that you cannot be destroyed by the natural fluctuations of the universe, no matter how extreme, is the true genesis of ultimate peace.
You no longer fear the play.
You no longer fear the actors, and you no longer fear the script, because you know you are the indestructible space in which the entire play occurs.
Let's bring this incredible exploration full circle. Let's step all the way back to the very beginning of our conversation.
Back to the room.
Think back to that initial state we described. You, standing in the center of the chaotic, disorganized room of your life, chest tight, or staring at the shattered pieces of your meticulously laid plans.
The exhaustion.
Remember the bone-deep exhaustion of fighting the current, the anxiety of trying to mold the wildflowers around you, the constant terror of the impending fire.
It's a heavy way to live.
Now look at that exact same room, but look at it from the bench. Look at the magnitude of human potential, of creativity, of joy that unlocks when you finally stop fighting the current.
The energy you get back is incredible.
Imagine what you could create, how deeply and fearlessly you could love, how freely you could breathe if you finally dropped the heavy, rusting armor of control.
Because control is just an illusion anyway.
When you surrender the desperate need to dictate the outcome, you do not become a passive victim of a chaotic universe. You become one with the profound tide of existence.
You flow with it.
You flow with the organic intelligence that turns a tiny, insignificant seed into a towering forest. You become the serene observer, playing the game of life with absolute joy, terrified of nothing, because you realize there was never anything to fear in the first place.
The psychological and spiritual transition from the fearful, exhausted manager to the powerful, engaged observer is the greatest journey a human consciousness can undertake.
It changes everything.
It changes the entire fabric of reality from a hostile battlefield into a magnificent, perfectly choreographed dance.
And as we close our discussion today, we want to leave you with a single lingering thought. It is something to mull over as you walk away from this audio, as you re-enter the bustling, complex, and beautiful playground of your daily life.
If the mirror of a meaning is real, if every single person you interact with, every frustrating obstacle that temporarily blocks your path, and every overwhelming joy that touches your heart is nothing but a perfect, unflinching reflection of your own hidden essence in the mirror of existence.
What is a reflection trying to tell you right in this very moment?